User permissions has changed on Amazon, and it's a little confusing, especially if you're used to the regular user permissions. There's now this thing called global user permissions. On one of my LinkedIn posts, Tony writes, although this has nothing to do with the Amazon PPC, that's what the post was about. He says, I would definitely recommend everybody go through their user global permissions versus the regular user permissions. I need to do a video on this. I found people from years ago who did audits or worked for us, and they're still listed. Who knows, maybe quite possibly still have had access. Global user permissions versus regular user permissions. So let's dive in and look at that. So step number one, to get to the user permissions page, you put your cursor on the gear icon and go to user permissions. That's going to pull up this page right here. I've blocked out in the bottom left the names and email addresses of my own account. But on the right, you can see you can click on manage permissions and manage global permissions. And I'll move my camera a little bit so you can see that. The super admin on the account is the only one that doesn't have the delete button on the account. This is very important because whenever you file brand registry, I highly recommend that you do it under the super admin account, the one that doesn't have the delete button right there. When you go to the user permissions button, it looks something like this. I'll move my photo to the bottom left there. So you can see here all of the advertising options, lending, growth, inventory, media uploads, performance pricing reports, settings, and many, many other things are inside of user permissions. But inside global, it actually trumps regular user permissions. The difference between the two is the ability to access it across all marketplaces. So even if you're only selling in the United States, sometimes you have to go to the global user permissions page to remove a user or add a user to gain access to certain features. Here's what the global user permissions page looks like with all kinds of additional things: brand benefits, growth, inventory, orders, pricing, and all kinds of other settings, including vacation settings and seller features and all kinds of things, including merchant token access. So there's actually a lot higher and unique items inside of global user permissions, things that you wouldn't normally know where they are otherwise, right? So the regular user permissions page has been the same for a very long time. They occasionally add something there. But anything new in 2023 going into 2024, almost all of them are being added specifically to the global user permissions page. When you click go to the global user permissions page, it'll look like this. There's names and emails just like the regular permissions page, but you'll see your brand seller account name right there. And then you'll see manage rights off to the side on the right. And when you click that, it goes to the page we just left, where you can see all of these global user permissions here. So regular permissions right here, global permissions right there. That's the difference between the two. Global permissions trumps regular permissions. So if you have a feature that's added on global, but they're not even added to your regular permissions, they will still have access to the account and still be able to do things. I now have a co-host. This is my 2-year-old son, Adam, and he wants some candy. Which is what I need after selling on Amazon, because it's such a complicated process sometimes and you have to learn new things. Amazon doesn't even send out announcements when they're doing changes and adding things to global user permissions. It can be very, very challenging there. So how's it going, Adam? Say hi. So if you like this video, you're probably going to like this next one right here, where I talk about how to change your display name inside of global user permissions. They just changed this as well. Used to be super easy. Now you got to click a couple extra buttons.